Isolde arrives at Nachtmar, greeted by Seraphine's cold elegance. The air reeks of grave roses and decay. The blood-red moon hung low over the estate, and Isolde's boots struck the cobblestones with a sound like bone on bone. She had climbed the crumbling steps alone, her black cloak heavy as a raven's wing across her shoulders. The air caught in her throat, sweet, cloying, wrong. Grave roses. She knew the scent from her grandmother's funeral garden, but this was different. This was grave roses mixed with something older, the copper rot of open tombs, the staleness of earth that had held the dead too long. The hallway swallowed her whole. Amber light fractured through cracked stained glass, casting the dust motes like spectral fireflies across stone worn thin by centuries of footsteps. Isolde's eyes adjusted to the gloom. Portraits lined the walls, figures in velvet and jewels, their eyes following her progress down the corridor. She didn't look at them. Instead, she let her fingers trail along the wall, finding it damp beneath the dust, alive with something. The silence was absolute, not the silence of an empty house, but the silence of something holding its breath. Then the whisper of velvet. Seraphine emerged from the shadows as though she had always been there, waiting. Her gown pooled like spilled ink around her feet, and the air crystallized as she moved, brittle, cold, the kind of cold that made the small hairs on Isolde's arms rise. The Duchess was pale as marble, her skin luminous in the fractured light, but Isolde's scholar's eye caught what the shadows tried to hide. The faint blackening of veins beneath that porcelain surface, creeping up her wrists like ivy on a tombstone. Seraphine stopped 3 paces away, close enough to study, close enough to judge. "Welcome, Isolde von Voss, to Nachtmar," she said, and her voice was silk over steel. "I trust your journey was uneventful?" The question hung in the air like a trap. Isolde steadied herself. She had come here knowing the stories, 100 years of brides, all cursed, all lost. She had come here to understand why, to find the pattern buried in the bones of this house. She sank into a curtsy, her cloak sweeping the uneven stone, her fingers brushing the hem of her dress to keep her hands from trembling. When she rose, she met the Duchess's gaze directly. "Duchess Seraphine, your reputation precedes you. I am honored by your invitation." A flicker of something crossed Seraphine's face, not quite amusement, not quite anger. Her eyes were chips of obsidian, catching the candlelight and throwing nothing back. "Honor is a fragile thing in these halls, Isolde," Seraphine said. She began to move, circling slowly, her gown whispering against the stone. "Tell me what brings you to Nachtmar under such a blood-red moon?" The question was casual, the tone was not. Isolde turned to follow her, keeping the Duchess in her sightline. "I seek the truth, Duchess, the truth that lies buried within these walls." "Truth." Seraphine stopped mid-stride, her head tilting slightly. The candlelight caught the edge of her jaw, sharp as cut glass. "Truth is a dangerous pursuit, Isolde. Some truths are best left buried." The grave rose perfume thickened. Or perhaps it was just Isolde's own breath, shallow and quick. She had spent 3 years in libraries and archives, piecing together the fragments of the curse. She had read the accounts, the brides who arrived in hope and departed in silence, if they departed at all. She had come here because the books held no answers, only questions that bled into one another like watercolor on wet paper. She took a step forward. The stone groaned beneath her heel. "Then let the truth be told, Duchess. Let the secrets of Nachtmar be laid bare." Seraphine's mouth curved into something that might have been a smile. She closed the distance between them with a fluid grace that seemed to bend the shadows in her favor. This close, Isolde could smell it, not just the grave roses, but something underneath, something older, something that had never been alive. "Very well, Isolde," the Duchess said softly, "but know this, some truths are more than mere mortals can bear. Her hand rose, and Isolde felt the air shift. Seraphine's fingers were ice against her cheek, a touch so cold it burned. Isolde's breath caught. She did not pull away. That would be surrender. But she felt the weight of the moment settle around them both. The Duchess's eyes held hers, and in that contact was the promise of something vast and terrible, something that had been waiting in these halls for a very long time. When Seraphine withdrew her hand, the warmth did not return to Isolde's skin. "Come," the Duchess said, turning toward the deeper darkness of the corridor. "There is much to show you, much you will wish you had never seen." Isolde followed, her cloak trailing behind her like a wound that would not close. Behind them the portraits watched, the candles flickered, and somewhere in the walls a dormant curiosity, patient for 100 years, stirred with interest at the arrival of the newest bride.